All right, let's look at the homework 7.5, problem number 1. All right, so first we want to find the critical number. So let's do a critical point. Let's do that. All right, so we're going to have to take the partial of f with respect to x. So this is going to be partial of that is 2x. All right, so y is going to be considered to be a constant. So the partial of y squared with respect to x is 0. Partial of 2x with respect to x would be 2, so it's a plus 2. And then partial of negative 4y with respect to x is 0. Partial of 4, it's a number, so it's 0. All right, so we can set that equal to 0, and we can see that this is going to be, I can probably pull out 2. So you have a 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So we know that x is going to be negative 1, right? So we got that. All right, so let's take the partial of f with respect to y. All right, so x squared partial with respect to y is 0. And the partial of y squared with respect to y is 2y. And the partial of 2x is 0. Partial of negative 4y would be negative 4. All right, and the partial of 4 is 0. So we set that equal to 0. And we can pull out 2. So you have y minus 2, right? Is equal to 0. All right, which gives us y equals 2. All right, so critical point is negative 1, comma 2. All right, so maybe I should show from here. So critical point is negative 1, comma 2. All right, so let's find the second partial with respect to x. All right, so partial of this with respect to x is 2, and that's it. Partial of 2 is 0. All right, and then partial with respect to second partial with respect to y would be 2 again. All right, and how about the mixed partial? So we have to take the partial of 2x plus 2 with respect to y. So in this case, it's actually 0. Right? So from here, d is equal to 2 times 2 minus 0 squared, which is going to be 4. And all we care is that it's a positive. Right? And also, we know that second partial with respect to x is 4, which is positive. Right? So remember that when d is positive, so we got a bowl shape either facing up or facing down. But since second partial with respect to x is positive, so the bowl is facing upward. So we are going to have a local minimum at the critical point, negative 1, comma 2. Right? So so this indicates that we're going to have a local minimum. Right? And let's find the values. Let's see. F of negative 1, comma 2 is equal to, right? So it's if you plug in, hold on a sec. All right, let's look at the homework 7.5, problem number 1. All right, so we want to find the critical point, then we want to determine if it's a relative max or min or saddle point. All right, so let's do that. All right, so we need to take the partial derivative. So partial of f with respect to x is going to be equal to, all right, partial of that is 2x, right? And this is with respect to x. So everything other than x will be a number. So partial of that is 0. Partial of 8x would be 8. So it's going to be plus 8. And partial of negative 6 plus 4 is 0. So we set that equal to 0. And we see that we can just pull out 2. So 2 and quantity x plus 4. And this is equal to 0. So we can see that x has to be negative 4. So x is equal to negative 4. All right? All right, so let's take the partial of f with respect to y. All right, so we're going to get that's 0. So partial of y squared would be 2y. And the partial of 8x with respect to y is 0. Partial of negative 6y is negative 6. And the partial of 4, it's a number, it's 0. So we set that equal to 0. Again, we can just pull out that 2. So we have y minus 3 is equal to 0. Right, so this indicates that y is going to be equal to positive 3. Right, so we have a critical number, right? Critical point, I should say, is going to be negative 4, comma positive 3. Right, so let's find the second partial. So second partial with respect to x is going to be equal to, right, second partial of that with respect to x would be 2. Right, and let's look at the second partial with respect to y. Right, so that's going to give you again 2, right, because 2y, right? And then how about the mixed partial? So xy. So if you take the partial of 2x plus a with respect to y, there's no y, so it's going to be a constant, so it's going to be 0. All right, so we know that d is going to be second partial with respect to x, which is 2, times second partial with respect to y, 2, minus mixed partial squared, so 0 squared. So that's going to be 4, but all we care is that it's going to be positive. Right? And also, if you know that the second partial with respect to x is 2, which is positive, right? So conclusion would be, right, so when d is positive, we're talking about the bowl shape, right? And the second partial is positive means that the bowl shape is facing upward. So we know that the critical point is going to give you a local minimum or relative minimum, right? So let's find the value at negative 4, 3. So let's find the f of negative 4, 3. Right, so if plug in negative 4, so it's a negative 4 squared, so it's going to be 16. And a 3 squared, so it's going to be plus 9. Right, negative 4 times 8 minus 32. Right, 32. And then minus 6 times 3 is minus 18. And then plus 4. Right, so what would that be? So if you add, let's see, I'm going to 16 plus 4 is 20, and plus 9 is 29. Right, so you have a 29 minus, right, so we have to combine those guys, 32 and 18, so it's going to be 50, so minus 50. So this is going to be equal to negative 21, right? So let's type in the answer, right? So it's going to be a relative minimum. So everything else is going to be a does not exist. So I guess I have to put the does not exist here. And then relative minimum is going to be negative 21 at negative, actually, I forgot what it was, negative 4, 3, right? So it's going to be negative 4, 3, and everything else is just does not exist and does not exist. All right, let's check the answer. All right, I came back and looks like we got all parts correctly. All right, that's it. I hope that this was clear.